Hello and welcome to my channel, Family Tech, where you get all the tech tips, news, and information to help you understand and manage the technology in your home. Today's guest, I'm so excited because I'm not a big travel person. And my daughter became a junior this year in high school. And I suddenly realized that we haven't done anything. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to start going places. So I started booking travel and things like that. But I am just so travel dumb. And I scoured Instagram looking for a great person to talk all the things about traveling. And I found our family passport. So tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and everything.
Okay, so first of all, I'm all for vacations. I think it's so important, but that's not the only way to do things and make memories, right? You can do all sorts of things. So I am a mom to a blended family of six. I actually started my travel account. My gosh, it was like 4 years ago, I think, and I did it with my mom and my sister. But at the time, it was multi-generational luxury family travel. We found that there just wasn't much of an audience for that. But we used points and miles for everything. And so I got divorced, I got remarried, all the things, and we really started using points and miles. And so I started posting about how we were taking these trips and what it was costing us and how someone else could do it. And that's actually where we really started to grow. So that's what we do. One of the things I do love though, when we blended our family, so my husband and he brought two, I brought one, and then we have one together. We went and met with a child psychologist, and we were just kind of because you have trauma getting divorced, right? You both have baggage and everything.
I'm child of divorce. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were like, how do we make this the best, the easiest? How can we blend our family in the best way? And he said that there were three things so he's older in his career. And he said there were three things that he always likes to ask his older patients. So when they come home from college or when they're getting ready to graduate high school, what were the things they remembered about their childhood? Where are their happy memories? And he said there are three things that always come up in the conversation: the meals that they ate together as a family, the traditions that they had, and the vacations that they went on. So I don't love to cook, but I
Yeah.
can really do traditions and vacations really well. So we just decided I love to travel anyway. And so we've really leaned into that. So that's what we do. Anyway, that's my
Nice.
story.
I
That's
love
how it
it.
works out. Yeah.
We'll get along great because I am a terrible cook as well. Like half the days I'm like, "Hey guys, you just want some cereal
Yeah. Do
again?"
you want some
Because
French toast or cereal?
I know.
Little Caesar's pizza.
Right, yeah. But luckily my kids are old enough now that they just "Is there anything for dinner?" And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "All right." And they go make their own dinner. So
Pull out some quesadillas.
right, exactly. So I might know a lot about technology, but cooking, crafting, all of that did not
Not your
reach my
forte.
brain.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I always say I wasn't in that line in heaven. That wasn't my skill set or my talent that I came to earth
Yes.
in with.
Yes. I was not in that line. That's absolutely correct.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. So, let's first talk about research.
Okay.
So, I'm like, okay, my daughter's a junior. What are the
What do we
best
do?
trips? What do we do? I know we need to go places. So, how do you figure out where
Okay.
to go and what to do?
Okay. So there are lots of different ways, and I need to just give a little heads up. My baby is napping, but I just heard him screech.
Oh,
So if I
sure.
have to go and grab
Oh,
him, then
yeah,
I
yeah.
will. But
No worries.
so I honestly, this is so basic, but Google is such a good place to start. Best vacations for juniors in high school. It's such an easy place to start. But I also really love Travel and Leisure. They're a really great resource. They have a real wonderful website, things that you can check out. Condé Nast is really great too. And they just give all of these good recommendations. And you can look at domestic travel versus international travel. But honestly, and I know this is about tech, but I would ask your daughter. I would
Yeah.
ask her, where do you want to go? Because she's on her phone, she sees things, she hears her friends going places. Ask her. This is probably the least techie thing that we do when it comes to travel, but we'll sit down as a family, and I have a 3x5 little piece of paper or whatever, and we just are okay, where do we want to go? And we create a little bucket list, and then we research that using the tech. So for me, I think looking on Instagram is a good place. Pinterest is always a great spot. But basic, go basic at first in what you want to do. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, speaking of this has nothing to do with anything, but she is actually going to Thailand on Monday.
Oh, that's so
So that
fun.
It's a little scary because she's going on a humanitarian trip, so she's
Okay.
going by herself. But like, where do you want to go? Like that was like on her list. Like I want to go to like
That's so awesome.
out
So
there.
awesome. So
Yeah.
fun.
She's gonna have fun,
She
hopefully.
is, yes. And I'm sure your mama heart is a little bit like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, my baby. Yes.
Yeah, well, because she's my oldest too, so
Yes.
definitely difficult. But so
It'll
now
be
that
great.
yeah, yeah, we'll see. We started like we went to the store yesterday and like started getting all the things together. So what about deals? So now, okay, I want to go to Thailand. I mean, not
Okay.
obviously, don't want to go to Thailand, but
Let's say
but
you do.
let's say you do. Now, where would I go to like
Okay.
find the best deals?
Okay, so there are a couple of different options, and there's actually two different schools of thought here. So, in the travel world, you have points and miles as a currency, right? So, you earn your points and miles and you can spend those, and then you also cash. So, finding deals for those two things are different. So,
Oh,
there are some really good resources for points and miles. I love one called Aways, and I also love something called Point.me. And you can go and you can type in where you want to go, and it'll give you all of the deals and how you can get there on points and miles. But if you're going cash, let's say you're going cash and you want to go as a family over Christmas to Thailand or whatever, I really like to start with the Google Explore flights section. And I just
I
like to explore
love
there.
Google Flights. Yeah.
Yep, it's basic, it's easy, it's intuitive, it's great. But Google is limited. Google Flights is limited because it only gives you so many options, and they're usually US based airlines. So I then really love Skyscanner. I like
Mm.
to go to Skyscanner for flights. And the best thing about Skyscanner is you can put in, they have a couple tools. One is the cheapest date tool. So I could put in, like, I want to fly from LAX to Bangkok. And then instead of picking a date, I just select cheapest dates and it'll tell me, oh, well, here's when I can go for the cheapest. So I really like Google as Skyscanner for that. Something else that I like about Skyscanner is it lists all of these smaller local airlines too and international airlines. So you're not limited to Delta, American Airlines, United. So that's a
Right.
really great option. For hotels, and this is such an underutilized tool, Google Hotels is so great and you can get in and you can see that. But I also really suggest like signing up for a few free alerts. Like there are really great ones. Pomelo Travel is a really good one. Scott's
Spell
Cheap
that.
Flights, Pomelo. So like Pomelo Travels, like Pomelo Dunes. I think it's P. I need to look it up. It's
Okay.
Penalo, Pomelo. So it's like
Okay.
Pomelo Travel. Yeah.
Got it.
That's really great. Scott's Cheap Flights are great. Jack's Flight Club. They also have these, they have these free email lists that you can get on. Well, they'll send you deals. So that I really, really like that as well.
That's awesome. And so you brought up another point that I did not think of previous because I'm a travel idiot. Um, but points and miles, like what are the best like ways to accrue points and miles?
So my first recommendation is you need a specific app and it's called Travel Freely. And I will send you the link so you can have that and you can list it.
Great.
It's so
Yeah.
awesome, but it's a free app and it has like this card genie feature where you can get on and you can see what card works best for you. And it'll tell you like,
Cool.
are you spending lots of money on groceries? Well, then this card is right. So the first thing you want to do is just ditch your debit card. If you can responsibly use a debit card, you can absolutely responsibly use a reward travel credit card where you're getting points and miles in return. But this
Right.
app is super great because it ranks those cards for you and it keeps track. It keeps all the different rules that you might need to know. So it's a really great free tech resource that you can use to just get started. So that's where I would say get started there. If you want to dive
Perfect.
into it, they have a good like little series of like there's some videos that go over, here's what to do and here's how to earn and here if you need to cancel a card, here's how to do it, stuff like that. It's a really, really great resource and I'll send you that link because I love that app. In terms of finding those deals, like I said, Point.me is a really great one for flights, and then Aways, but with a Z, not an S, is for
Sure.
hotels, and they're so good. But when you use your points and miles, you're getting things for basically free. So that's really awesome.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, I am the same way. Like I have credit cards, but
Right.
I just pay them off every month.
Yeah,
And if you can use a debit card successfully, you can use a credit card
for sure.
successfully. You just pay it off every month. And
Exactly.
if you're already just buying groceries, why not
Why
get
not earn some free
free
travel on it?
vacations?
Right.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So Travel Freely is where I would start for sure. And then, like I said, I'll send you that link because it's so awesome.
Cool. So what are some of your favorite vacation spots? And let's
Okay.
preface this too with your family and with just your husband or
Okay.
something. And then even if like you have solo places that you like to go, like,
Okay.
or girls'
So,
trips.
yes. I've been to over 50 countries. And so it's actually easier for me usually to say where I wouldn't go back to, but I do have a few really favorite places. So I love China. I think China is
I've been to
so
China. That's the
awesome.
only
Yes.
place I've been
Hey,
outside of the US.
how did you like it? That's kind of like a wild place to go for your first trip. What did you think of it?
I loved it. I went, Lenovo is a company that makes computers.
Yes.
They brought me out to China. So I was with Lenovo.
Oh, how
Um,
fun.
and so like they brought us to like the Great Wall and to
Yes.
Forbidden City. And then we like had our event that we had to like go to and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought it was fabulous. The only thing I struggled with was the toilets for sure.
Oh, yeah. The squatting toilets. Yeah.
I did not understand the concept, and like so I might get a little too much information here for a second, but I like the very first night we landed, we went straight to like this really
Uh-huh.
fancy restaurant, right?
Yes.
Fancy restaurant. I like okay, I need to go to the bathroom. I go into the bathroom, and it's like
A hole.
it's a hole in the ground,
Yes.
and I'm like, how do I use this? I literally sat on the ground.
Oh. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. By the end of the trip, I had it figured
You
out.
figured it out.
But like, and luckily my hotel had like a regular toilet,
Yes.
but yeah, that was the big thing that tripped me up in China. And then
So,
the great China firewall is the other thing where
yes.
you can't get to Instagram or
Right.
Facebook or any of the Microsoft products and things like that.
Yes,
That was
that's an
difficult.
interesting thing to navigate, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really, really, really interesting. The hilarious thing is if you go anywhere where they have a lot of Chinese tourists, they on the toilet, so like let's say it's a standard Western toilet, there are signs with like a little person that's like, you don't get up and stand on the toilet, you sit on this toilet. So it goes both ways, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, people are confused when they come here to the US or Europe. But
Yeah.
so China is up there, Botswana is up there for me. Venice, France. I mean, there's some really awesome places. I love Norway too. Colombia. I really, really love, but then at the same time, I love going to Disneyland with my kids. You know, it doesn't always have to be China or Botswana or whatever. Um, oh yeah, I see. I think my most favorite recent trip was Egypt.
Oh,
So
cool.
we took our 1-year-old over Christmas because we're blended. So
Right.
my stepkids were with their mom and my little one was with his dad. And so we went to Egypt with my 1-year-old and it was so awesome. It was everything that I wanted it to be. But I teach art history in like my day job.
Oh, cool.
And so
Yeah.
like art and history is always so awesome. So for
Wow,
me, I
that's
would love
awesome.
that. Yeah. And obviously Hawaii with kids, like it Bora Bora. I don't know. I could go on and on about all the places that I love. It's not super easy.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing on my bucket list, and I do not have a bucket list. I just like, like I said, we're
Right.
not like big travel people. I don't have a real bucket list, but I do have one thing on my bucket list, and that is to visit every Disney park. Because
Okay.
I've been to I've been to Anaheim. I used to
Uh-huh.
work at Disney World in Florida,
Okay.
but like I want to go to the Paris Disneyland. I want to go to Tokyo. I want to go to Shanghai. Like
Yes,
that
that's so fun.
I've got to go to all of the Disney parks. So that's
You
the
can do it.
only thing on my bucket list. Yeah.
So we've done Disneyland
Oh,
Paris, but we're
fun.
going to Disney Sea and Disney Tokyo in April, and I can't wait. That will be so
Oh,
fun. I've heard amazing things about it.
yeah. Well, so I watched a docu-series called
Uh-huh.
Imagineering on Disney Plus. And it literally is talking about like the construction of every of the Disney parks. And
For
when it
sure.
was talking about Disney Seas and Tokyo Disneyland, I was like,
It's supposed to be
like,
awesome.
yeah.
The best part is we're staying for free. We're staying for totally free there, so I'm so excited. So yeah,
That's
it'll be
awesome. With
awesome.
points and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
That's
Yep.
awesome. We did get a comment here, using credit card points to bring my whole family to Mexico at Christmas.
Yay!
So
That's the best.
yeah, that's so awesome. This is actually my sister. Her son is getting married in Mexico. That's
Oh,
not
how
what
fun. What
so,
that I wanna get married in
yeah.
Mexico.
Well, he's marrying a Mexican, so
Uh-huh. That's so fun. What a
yeah.
fun family trip and free. I mean, you can't beat that, right? That's the
Right.
best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So now that we've booked our trip, we know where we're
Okay.
going. How do you plan the trip? Like what How are you booking, keeping track of different events? You know, you're going to go to
Okay.
the Great Wall. What do you do
Yes.
from there?
So this is where I actually get like really techie and I get like into
Yay.
the nitty gritty of tech. So like at the first like kind of high level, it's like, oh, let's just Google, where do we want to go? Whatever. It's the planning thing that I get really techie. So the first thing,
Yeah.
especially as moms, right? And we know the data says that 70% of trips are booked by the woman in the family because that's just
I
kind of
believe that.
how it goes, right? And in not all families, but like that's how it was in my family. That's how it is in my family. So, and when you have lots of kids, that can be hard managing every confirmation number and every ticket. So the first thing is TripIt.
Hmm.
I love TripIt. Have you heard of TripIt before?
I haven't. Yeah. Like
Okay,
I said, I'm travel
hey,
dumb.
TripIt is phenomenal because anytime you book anything, so let's say you book an Airbnb or you book a flight or you book a tour and you get that confirmation in your email, it'll upload into your trip itinerary and it keeps track of everything for you because it's so easy. I can't even tell you. I mean, I teach people how to travel for nearly free. And there have been times where I've booked a flight and I forgot I booked it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just paid for that flight and I didn't even take it. Like, because it's hard to keep things organized, right? So
Yeah.
TripIt is my favorite and it just comes in your email. They have a free and a paid version. I would say start with the free version and see how you like it and how it works in the interface, and then go from there. So TripIt is my number one recommendation just to kind of keep track of things. My second,
What can it keep track of? Like just
any sort of travel itinerary, flight, hotel, anything, it'll keep track of and it uploads it into an itinerary for you. So
cool.
that is really awesome. So like tickets, like when we bought tickets to the Louvre, they were right there. It uploaded it
Oh,
and said on
cool.
this day, this is where you're going to be. I've even had some transportation, like train tickets or like an Uber that's been done in advance. It'll take care of it.
Cool.
Like with any tech, there can be glitches. And so I like to just kind of like cross check it and make sure, but it's a really good starting place.
Yeah.
And then I love using Viator as a search engine
How do
to
you spell that?
determine. Viator is so I'm horrible at spelling. It's Viator, Viator.
Okay.
And it's owned by TripAdvisor. So I don't actually love to book through Viator necessarily. It's more like a booking platform because I've found that I can book through the tour guide direct for cheaper.
Mhm.
But Viator is the best search engine to find activities to do in a location.
Oh,
So, like if I'm going to Amsterdam, I can type in best things to do with kids in Amsterdam, and it's going to pull up all the different tours and things that are available there.
cool.
And you have to do a little bit of sleuthing to figure out, like, you have to go deep down into the website to see like the actual tour provider. But then I just reach out to that tour provider. But we've done some amazing things that I found through Viator that I didn't even know was possible. So, like a painting class or a ceramics class or a cooking class or a safari or something like that you can find these awesome offerings of what to do somewhere through Viator. And I also love because they're all rated. So you can see like, oh, this activity wasn't that great or this activity isn't super good for kids. And so
Right.
it's just a good resource. I really like starting there. That's one of my favorite spots to go to get those creative planning juices flowing.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And then if at any point you need to go get your son, I don't.
Can you hear him screaming?
I
Oh,
just heard just barely, like
he's
it
just
was
gonna
like,
have to deal.
like all I heard is,
It's nap time and he's turning 2 next week, and so
Oh,
he's
sure.
starting to, like, trying to phase out, but I'm not
Yeah.
not ready to
Yeah.
give that up, so he's just gonna talk about
You're
good
like,
parenting right there, right?
oh yeah, no, no, that is good parenting actually. Just if you were to run to his aid, I would
Yes.
judge, but
Okay. Well, if it's not
totally
too
agree.
loud, we're just gonna keep the
It's really
headphones on.
not like I
Okay,
could just barely hear it. I was like,
okay.
oh, he's sad. Like,
He is sad, but he'll survive, he'll be
yeah,
okay.
awesome. Okay, so we booked the trip. We've figured out things to do. Let's talk packing. So,
Packing.
what are your travel tech essentials?
Okay,
And then,
so
and do you have anything you use to like keep track of what you've packed and things like that?
So my packing is I am not good at this. I am such an overpacker. And when you have kids, it's actually really hard
Oh
when you're
yeah.
traveling with a baby to not overpack, especially
Oh,
when you
I'm
go
sure.
places like China and Egypt, because you're like, well, what's the diaper situation there?
Right.
How do we manage this? So
Yeah.
so in terms of like effective packing, like not overpacking, I'm actually not the person you want to talk to. I will tell you how to get your bags free. I will tell you how to fly for free and where to stay for free and have this 5-star vacation. But
Yeah.
I'm the idiot that's hauling way too many bags. So the tech on that, I'm not super great. I do know that some people really love packing apps.
Yeah.
Or they
I
like
use one for
something.
sure.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? You give me the advice
Yeah.
on that because I am not good at that. I have a piece of paper and I write things down as I go. It's not super effective. So I'm going to be upfront about that. I wish I was like still
No,
following
you're
that. I'm
totally good.
not. But my tech
Mm.
in terms of like going everywhere. So I know you're not a big Apple fan. I know you are an Android. Yes. Hey,
Yes.
so
But I have an iPhone here, like
yes.
that I use for testing and things like that. I don't use this as my daily driver. Like Android for the win.
So my husband
Okay.
is Android for the win too. He
Nice.
is live and breathe by Android. I'm Apple, and that kind of just default. That's what I
Yeah.
had as a teenager, and then in my college years, I had a Mac, and then it's like you just build on that. I'm like, I don't want to
Right.
switch everything over now. Everything's here.
Yeah.
So
It's
for
understandable.
me, yes, my most important piece of tech in my packing is my Apple World Traveler adapters. So they're
Ah.
the best. So I'm going to show you. So you know how like your Apple chargers on your computer and everything I have one right here. So you
Yeah.
have this, right? So the
Yeah.
world travel ones, you just pop this part off. I can't, okay. Yeah, pop it off
Yeah, you're good.
and then it puts in, then it has all of the different, like, okay, if you're in Europe, here's the power adapter that you need. If you're
Ah.
in China, here's the power adapter that you need. And I think it's like $40 as
Oh,
the
that's
world
nice.
travel kit and it all comes
Yeah.
together. So I use that all the time. That's like my number
And
one.
that's directly from Apple. Like you
It's
just get
directly
the
from Apple. Yep.
world travel kit.
Yep,
Okay.
and I've tried, like, the more knockoff ones that you can get for cheaper on Amazon, and honestly, it's not worth frying your phone or
Yeah.
your curling iron or whatever it is that you need, when you're there. So I
Yeah.
have we've one time I used a cheap one and I could smell like that burny, that like
Oh, yeah.
burny tech smell. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, my computer is like so hot. Like I've got to unplug it. So that's my number one thing. Also,
Yeah.
something else is we live in this world where we're so used to having our phones, right? And we can get any information that we want, any map that we want, whenever we want. I can't tell you how many times I've been burned by that. And I've learned the hard way to download offline apps. That is so important because there are times where you're somewhere and you don't speak the language. You're like, I don't know how this public transportation system works, or I don't, and I'm so used to just having my phone tell me, you do this and this and this. And then if it's not available, or if you're in China, right,
Right.
and there's this firewall or some like service just isn't always the same everywhere. So I am a big believer in downloading offline apps. So again, kind of basic, kind of simple, but something that we actually forget about a lot.
Yeah,
So
I have a funny story about that, and if my sister's still here, she was there. We went to, Yellowstone, and
yes.
we got an Airbnb or a VRBO or something near like, actually, it
Look
was
at
in,
you.
like
You know how to travel. You know that
yeah,
Airbnb and VRBO. Go you.
yeah. Yeah, so we go somewhere as a like, siblings, like, so we have 2 brothers and then us, like, in all of our families, like, every other year. And
Yes.
so we were going to Yellowstone, we went to Big Sky, Montana, that's where we were staying,
Okay.
and we had a VRBO, but I didn't download the directions or anything like that, and neither did she, and our husbands got so mad at us because we were trying to find the VRBO and, like, we couldn't find it, and we had no service,
For
and
sure. And you don't know where you're going, right? And that's in the States. That's here in the
right,
States. So imagine being in like Japan or Thailand and you're like, what do
like,
I
"Oh,
do? I don't even know. So
shoot." Yeah,
I'm actually a big believer in whatever I love Google Maps. I think Google
yeah,
Maps is my favorite. But downloading that offline map
yeah,
to help you is
yeah. I
basic. But
100% sign off
yep.
on that for
So
sure.
my 2 tech recommendations, if you are an Apple person, the World Traveler adapter kits are so perfect because it's not going to fry any of your stuff. They're perfectly geared toward your Apple products. And then download those apps, man.
Yeah,
And actually, I would say, and I know that this is silly, but I don't have to take my camera anymore. I'm not
yeah.
hauling around a big camera anymore. I have my phone. And Google Photos is perfect between my husband's Android and my Apple. Like we love it. So I know again, basic, super basic, but it's so easy and so simple to use.
Yeah. I also love Google Photos, and I like you said when you like you double check things. I also have Dropbox on my phone, so
Oh, that's smart.
it uploads to Dropbox and it uploads to Google Photos at the same time. So I'm like doubly protected. I've got
Yes.
my photos like saved, but same. Like I recently, I don't remember where I was going, but oh, like, we went on a cruise, and I'm like, "Should I bring my camera or not?" Like, and I had this, like, internal debate. I'm like, "I really don't need it. Like, I've
Yeah,
got my phone."
you
So,
really don't. I
totally
know.
feel you there. Um, when my daughter goes to Thailand, though, she will not have her phone, so we did just buy her, like, a little point and shoot.
Polaroid, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so
so fun for her.
that'll be fun. But the app I use for packing is called Packpoint. I had to look it up.
Packpoint. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
write that down.
And then what's cool about it is I can set up like just my typical packing list so that
Yes,
like next time I go on a trip, like it just populates everything
populates it.
I want to pack and I'm good to go. And I like it'll ask me how many days I'm there and it'll like adjust stuff
Oh, that's
like
awesome.
for
Is
how
it
many
free or
days.
is it paid?
Yeah, I don't pay for it.
That's
So
awesome, Packpoint.
yeah.
And it doesn't have, like, super annoying ads or anything like that?
Not that I've seen. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm gonna download that sucker right now.
Yeah, you should. And then it also like asks you where you're going and it'll tell you like the weather that's supposed
Oh,
to
that's
be for
perfect.
that. So like you can pack accordingly. But
Yes.
so I really like Packpoint, just because like I've got my list in there, I'm ready to go. I don't have to like keep recreating that.
Right.
But one thing I do pack, like I don't do a lot of international travel, but a power strip. I
Oh,
always bring a power
yes,
strip.
that's helpful. My husband's the one that always packs that, but a power strip is really, really, really helpful. And you can even get, like, international ones. So if you get on, like you get on Amazon, you can look at, like, power strip, like an EU power strip, and then you can take that, and that's super helpful. And then I totally spaced Google Translate. I like to have
Oh yeah.
that downloaded too for international travel. I mean, most people are going to speak some form of English almost anywhere you go, but there are those times like I have celiac disease too, and so I like to be able to put in my Google Translate so there's like no, that's really helpful. So I think offline Google Maps or whatever map feature you like. I know Apple Maps you can do down offline Google Translate, and then a good adapter that you know is reliable and good.
Yeah. Speaking of Google Translate, how best like I said, I don't do a lot of international travel. How would you recommend using something like Google Translate? Like you come across somebody who's not really speaking English,
Uh-huh.
like do you type it in and like show it to them or like how does that communication usually go?
The funny thing is, I mean, I hate like the stereotype of the dumb American tourist, right? So we usually try when we go
That would be
somewhere to
me.
to book a local guide. I really like
Oh,
so
yes.
like I love to travel for free, right? I
Mhm.
love to get my flights and my hotels and stuff, but I do like when I travel somewhere like Egypt or Botswana or whatever where their economy really does rely a lot on tourism, we really try hard to spend money in country on a local guide. So
Nice.
we're not using Google Translate all of the time. We like to try to have someone that we get like a little bit of culture from and we can learn from and stuff like that. But there are times where like you're out and about on your own or you're not sure how to explain something to someone. We were one time in Costa Rica and there was a bat. There was a bat in we were staying in a rental property and there was a bat and the cleaning crew came and we were trying to tell them bat. And we could not figure out like bat. How do we say bat? And honestly, we typed it into our Google Translate and we showed them. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, and that's what we do. And actually, most people are used to that. They're
Okay, cool.
most places we've gone, they're like, pull out their phone, they have Google Translate, and
Yeah.
they're like, just what tell me what it is
Yeah.
that you need. And so that's what we do. So I might be like a straight idiot. I might be breaking all sorts of cultural norms, but there are times where I'm like, help me.
Please get rid of this bat.
Yes, yes, help me with this. So that's what we do. And again, rudimentary, not super great, but it's effective. And
Yeah.
Google Translate isn't always perfect either, but
No, yeah.
it's, if you're like, "Oh my gosh, I got to get to the bathroom and I don't speak Chinese, like what do I do here?"
Yeah.
Then that's really helpful.
Yeah. That just reminded me, like, I took a lot of French in high school. Like, I
Okay.
took 5 years of French, but I don't speak
Right.
it well
Conversationally.
anymore. Yeah. And so I was working at Disney World and a couple came up to me and they're like, I could understand. Well, first, no, they asked if I spoke German. I'm like, I don't speak German. And then they asked if I spoke French. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, we should
No
probably
sprechen de Deutsch, but
yeah,
parlez-vous.
no, yeah, we. And so, like, I could understand what they were saying to me, but for the life of me, I couldn't come up with the words to like tell them, and this is before smartphones because I'm old. And so I'm like, over there, like I knew what they wanted,
Yeah.
but I couldn't like come up with the words. So like that would be really helpful when you're like
That
just
is
trying to
helpful when
like,
you're tongue-tied, and sometimes when you're, like, you're flustered, right? You know you're on a train and you know you need to get somewhere, but you're not sure, like, what stop. Sometimes just being able to be like, "Okay, I'm gonna plug this in my phone, and this person next to me looks nice, and can you help me?"
right.
That's helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So, what about you've got some young kids there? What about technology rules during vacation?
Okay, so I don't know if you're gonna like this one or not, but on the airplane now, not anything goes in terms of, like, rating. It's not like my kids
Well,
are
sure.
playing,
No.
like, Grand Theft Auto or anything like that, but honestly, it is unlimited screen time. Like, you break out that phone, baby, and it'll entertain you for 12 hours, man.
Yep.
Like, go to town. So on the airplane, and I know some people feel really strongly against this, but
Oh yeah,
I
no.
do not. If I'm
Yeah.
trying to survive a long haul flight with my 4 kids, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, my toddler wants to watch 5 hours of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, like, all
More
for it.
power to you. Yeah.
Yep. And that's actually one thing that my kids kind of look forward to in our vacation because we do limit screen time at home that it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yay, we're going on an
Yeah.
airplane. We can play video. I can play Minecraft for 10 hours and my mom's not
Right.
gonna bug me." I actually do have to sometimes, like, tell my kids, like, "You gotta go to sleep. Like, turn that thing off for a little bit." But it's unlimited screen time
Yeah.
for flights. And
I back
honestly,
that.
sometimes even road trips if it's a long time and I
Oh
know that
yeah.
they're supposed to, like, look at scenery, but sometimes it's like, I gotta survive being in a car for 10 hours with the 4 of you. So whatever we need to do to make this happen.
Yeah.
In destination, we really limit that. We really, really, really limit that. Like, I'm talking like either non-existent, like we
Yeah.
put the phones away and but see, I have little kids. I don't have teenagers.
Yeah.
Um, when I was a teenager, smartphones weren't a thing yet, but I did have my own cell phone. And my parents learned really fast that I was happier on vacation when I had a little bit of time to check in with my friends. So
Yeah.
I do know some families that travel that they're like, they build in like some downtime, like, you know what, check in with your friends. That's important to you. And unfortunately, our social life is so tied up into our phones.
Yeah.
So then I think as my kids get older, we will allow that a little bit more. But there are times where we're like, we're somewhere so cool. Like,
Yeah.
just no phones. That's just how it's going to be, and you can, and that works for us now for our
Right.
phase in life. I think as my kids get older, um, and I'm not a fan of having kids on social media, like my kids having their own social media accounts.
Yeah.
So, when they turn 15, 16 and they start getting those accounts, we'll have to reassess, do you post while we're actually there? Do you have to post
Yeah.
later when we get home? The safety rules there.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're not there yet. So I will say
Right.
with my little ones, it's full screen time ahead, and then we limit that when we
Yeah.
are somewhere.
Yeah, and I like that. And then like I do have teenagers, so my daughter's 17 and my
Yeah.
son is 14. So we do let them, we went on a cruise and let them, do
Yeah,
whatever on their
they need
phones. And
time, right?
yeah, yeah,
That is part of their social life now. That's the world that we live in.
yeah,
So restricting that is tricky, but having some boundaries, I would say actually the person that needs some boundaries on vacation for tech is mom.
yeah,
It's me because that's my job. And there are times where
yeah,
my husband's like, "Can we not take pictures
yeah,
for like 3 hours? Can we like put our phones away?" So actually
yeah,
the person that really needs the boundaries is me. So I'm working on like no tech time, like being really present.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes that's hard because like, oh, this would be a perfect reel. And so
right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
but timers, you can set up timers on any
Mhm.
option. All my kids have Gab watches, and we love that when we travel because there is that, oh my gosh, we're somewhere foreign and it's different.
Yeah,
There's something so reassuring in being able to be like, oh, we can see exactly where you are, if
yeah,
you get lost here or whatever. So that's helpful too.
yeah, yeah. That totally makes sense. I love it's me. I'm the problem.
I
It's
am.
me.
It's me. I'm the problem. I'll pull a full Taylor Swift on that one. Like
Yeah,
it's me.
yeah. So is there any part I just got tongue tied. Like, how has technology enhanced some of your vacations? So I'll just give a quick example. When we were in Yellowstone, there's a Yellowstone app that you can like pre-download because there's like no service there.
Right.
And it will be like, oh, and this is the like blah, 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 blah. And you're like, wow, that's like really helpful to like have
It's
this
so
app.
fun, right?
Yeah. So
Yes.
have you found stuff like that in
Okay,
different
so
locations?
I really love there's one that's like free walking tours all over the world and it's called GPS My City. So that's a really fun one because you pull it up and it's like, "Oh, here's this," and it gives you some information, and here's this and it gives you some information. And so you can do that in Amsterdam, in Tokyo, wherever. So I love that one. I think that that is so awesome and it's free. So it's a great option. And I do think they have a premium, if I remember right, I think they have a premium option. So there's not ads and stuff, but I don't remember the ads being a big deal. And then
Sure.
I also love if you're a road trip family, or even if you're not a road trip. My husband and I did this when we were in Hawaii last year. It's called Road Trippers. And you put in where you are and where you're going. So, like, if you're like, I'm in Waimea and I want to drive to Hana in Hawaii, it'll say, oh, here are all these really cool stops and here are some ratings along the way. So that's really awesome because sometimes you're driving somewhere, you're going somewhere, and you're like, I didn't even realize that there was this really cool option. Road Trippers works best in the US, so it's not like super awesome. And there was one, and I actually was trying to, because I saw your question prompts. There's one that we used in Italy, and it was like a point and shoot program where you could look at something and it would tell you this is what it is and this is how old and this was the Caesar that commissioned it and stuff like that. I couldn't find it for the life of me, but there are those cool things all the time. But my favorite are the GPS My City and then Road Trippers are really great.
Yeah, so I don't know what app you're specifically talking about, but I know Google Lens could probably do
Oh yes,
something
that does
similar
that
to that.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Google Lens is available for iOS and Android.
Yes.
But yeah, I love using Google Lens, even like just as, a field journal. I'm like, oh, what's this plant? And I can
Yes.
lens it
Yes,
and
that's such a good idea. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. But those are my two favorite.
I love that. So what about technology hiccups people should be aware of when, I mean, you definitely already called into one, which is the like
Okay. Well, I'm
slides
going to
and
tell you this is my biggest technology hiccup that I see happen all the time and I've made a mistake on this too. It's not printing out, and I know it's like environment, don't waste paper, stuff like that. When you book airfare or your hotel, print out your reservations. And I know having it on your phone is great and we have the barcode that we can scan, but the problem is like if of an airline bumps your flight, it's going to change that in that app. So if you go and you try to talk to a representative and you're relying on the app to be like, no, I actually was on this flight, I need your help. There's so many like channels to be crossed that it's way easier to pull out your printed confirmation and say, okay, here is this confirmation. I realize my phone is telling something different, but this is what I booked. I need your help. And we
yeah.
happened to us multiple times. One at a hotel where the reservation was double booked and then it was canceled without us knowing. But my mom had printed out her reservation, and so then they were like, "Oh yeah, we." But that would be my like technological hiccup is if you are solely and it's how awesome is it that I can take my phone, I can swipe up, I can get my tickets, I can check into the flight. It's awesome. But there are times when that like when Southwest had its massive meltdown,
Oh yeah.
like if you are relying only on that, then you're kind of messed over. So I would say having a backup of printed confirmations is really, really helpful. And sometimes it's like a small forest for our family, but hotels and airlines is really important. Um, so that is how to negate that technological hiccup is when you get bumped on a flight and you're like, no, this is what I booked. So
Yeah. That's really smart because we actually, so like I said, we went on a cruise. Like my daughter turned a junior, and I decided to take all the trips, right?
well, I'm so
And so,
glad.
yeah, so we booked a cruise, and I had to book flights to New Orleans, and all of a sudden, like we're going, like I booked a direct flight,
Right.
but now we're going to like Wisconsin or something. I don't remember where it
Yes.
was, but like it was some like we're going to New Orleans from Utah, and we had to go like north.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do
Yeah.
that, especially if you paid for that direct flight, right?
Right, and I paid extra for,
Yes,
like, the direct flight because I
right.
saw other options that, like, had layovers and
That
things, and I'm
were,
like,
yes, less expensive, but you're like, "No, I wanted," yeah,
right, but I didn't know, like, what I'm doing, but my mom is, like, travel
old school,
extraordinaire.
yes.
Yeah, and, like, she called and, like, I don't know what she did, I can't remember, but, like, either got something for free or, like, did something, and I was like, "Oh, I coulda done that."
Yes.
Like,
Having those confirmation numbers and having what it was that you booked is really helpful, because if you show up to someone and you're like, "Well, this is what I booked," but you have no proof of that, and it shouldn't be this way, right? You
yeah,
should be able to tell the airline agent like, "Well, I actually booked this," and they should be able to look it up and see like, "Oh yeah, she actually booked this." But lots of
right,
times they don't or they
yeah,
won't. And
right,
so having that gives you the option of being like, "Okay, here's my confirmation number. I'm going to call. This needs to be fixed." And you don't want to be the beast, right?
right,
You don't want to be the beast in the room. You don't want to be the Karen or anything, but
yeah.
you can be an advocate for yourself, and having printed receipts, if you
Yeah.
will, is really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the other thing that really trips me up, and I don't put this in there, like, so I go to CES every year in Las
Yes.
Vegas, and I book a lot of appointments at CES because I'm meeting with different brands and different like PR people and things like that. And every time, like when I first started doing that, I'd get to CES and they're an hour time difference. And I was like,
Your calendar is all thrown off.
so thrown off because like
Yeah.
it automatically adjusts. And I'm like,
I
wait,
hate
was this
that.
booked at 6 mountain time or was this booked at 6 Pacific time? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I have to like, so now I just put in the notes. Like first I set the
Oh,
time
that's actually
zone.
really smart. That's really, just put in
Yeah.
the notes when it actually is booked. That's
Yeah.
it. That's an easy, simple way to do that.
Yeah. Cause I also like, cause I set the time zone for the appointment, but then I still don't trust it. And so
Right.
that's why I'm like putting it in the notes, like, okay, this appointment is at 6 p.m. And so I'm
Yes.
like, okay, I know when it is. So
I think that's brilliant,
yeah,
actually. And a simple solution, right?
right, right. Just put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Any other like things that can trip you up?
I would say like if you go somewhere like China, if you go somewhere where there's some censorship,
Yeah.
that's good to know ahead of time. I honestly think the thing that trips me up the most is when I'm relying too much on my phone for tours, tickets, hotels, just in case. We haven't had like any other offline maps are tricky too, but those would be my biggest hiccups, and that's how to solve those
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All
Yep.
right. Is there anything else we haven't talked about with
I
travel?
don't think so. I think if you're wanting to get started in points and miles, that travel freely is super important. And I honestly, for me, I'm like, just go, just
Yeah.
start. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be the perfect time. I just start. But I think technology can totally enhance things. I love that. I like getting apps for my kids that are based in places where we're going. We went to the Anne Frank house and I got a little app for my 10-year-old at the time to look that up and learn about things. And so it can be so awesome and so great to do that. So those are my tips, but I am all for using technology the right way in your family.
Yeah. Awesome. Me too. Like
Yep.
we're a very tech positive place here.
Yes.
So, awesome. Well, thanks. Where can people find you online? You've got it right there, Our
Okay.
Family
Yep.
Passport.
Our
But
Family
like,
Passport.
yeah.
And then, so just Our Family Passport on Instagram or ourfamilypassport.com. And then if you're interested in more like travel hacking things, we have a course called Travel Reward University too.
Oh, very cool. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome. Gonna
Yeah.
have to take that because
We'd love to have you.
again, got to get all the travel in now while
Yes.
my kids are
Well,
like
you
actually
can,
still at home. Yeah.
right? Well, thank you so, so, so much, Sarah. It was such a blast being on here.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Thank you so much. And go ahead and
Yay.
take care of that little boy.
Take care of the baby that's screaming in the background. Awesome. Wish there was some tech for that,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Sorry. That doesn't help.
I know. I wish. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Bye.